We're here with Jason Stuart. I was just watching a special on CNN called The History of Comedy, and they went way, way, way back to all the big comedians through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and who inspired them. So, Richard Pryor, and then Eddie Murphy inspired by him, et cetera, et cetera. So who was it that you started watching, that you started to get turned on to the idea of comedy, Jason?
I think the first one that I saw that really just made me laugh my head off was Don Rickles.
Don Rickles.
On the Dean Martin roast. He was just so funny and so irreverent, and he just sort of had his own way of talking to people, and it also seemed so real, and it seemed so conversational, and he seemed so in the moment, and I love that because I think being an actor is my first love, so I think that's the way I saw myself.
Yeah, and he was very stylized too. It was a very stylized form of comedy. It was very specific.
Yeah, and then of course I used to love it. Hey! They were just the other comics. We're at the Portland Queer Comedy Festival. I think Toady Fields. And if you remember Toady Fields, she was on the Dean Martin roast also, and the first thing she said, "Dean, I just want you to know one thing. I'm not sure you remember, but I was your first wife." And I just fell on the floor.
Really?
Because Dean Martin was known for being a
Not
drinker.
sure if you remember, but...
Yes. And then I fell in love with Joan Rivers, and then I started to really love Richard Lewis.
Yes.
And then, of course...
I love the neuroticness of Richard Lewis. I used to watch a sitcom with Jamie Lee Curtis, and just he was
I forgot the name of it, yeah.
Yeah, but he was just so neurotic and so over the top, and I thought, oh, that's this chick, right? No, he's...
Well, I don't know him personally, though. I did meet him once at the Improv Comedy Club, and he met my sister, and he came on to her and everything, and I thought, oh, God, I wish he would have, then she wouldn't have become an Orthodox Jew. But so every time I see him, I go, you ruined my life.
Right. But he's funny. So when you were planning to do this conversion in your comedy, as you talked about in the Geraldo episode, you talked in there how you had kind of about a year plan to converting it into allowing the gay humor and going a different direction.
Oh, cool.
So once your Geraldo...
I don't remember all this.
Well, so once your Geraldo episode, did you just go full bore into like the gay humor?
Yeah.
Is that where you turned this corner?
I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Because in those days, when somebody would watch a television show, everybody would see things. It wasn't like a show that you'd watch it and all of a sudden, like now, maybe someone would see it, or they'd see it 6 months later when they were binging it, or they'd see it when they got to it. Everybody watched things all at the same time.
Okay. So your coming out episode of Geraldo was a launching into a new phase.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Okay.
It launched a tour, and it launched the whole idea of me being who I am.
So let's talk about that. So Stuart has performed at all the top comedy clubs and comedy festivals and hundreds of gay events, prides, colleges, universities, even on Broadway. So just fill in the gaps here. Yes?
Yeah, I was one of the first openly gay comedians to headline mainstream comedy clubs, and I did that for close to 25 years. I would go out 2 weeks a month.
Yeah.
And I would do that. I did that for a really long time until around 2008.
Yeah, I think I would trade my day job for just about any piece of the action that you're talking about here.
Really?
This sounds like so much fun.
Oh, God.
I mean, is it hard work? Is it fun? what's the comic reality of your work?
Is fun, but there's the 23 hours out in the day that you have to figure out, what to do. You're not at home. You're not sleeping in your own bed. You're in hotels.
Okay.
You're dealing with airplanes. And if you watch my stand-up special, which Here TV just rebought.
Did they?
Just play it again, yeah. It was 10 years ago I did a stand-up special called Making It to the Middle. It was 2008 it came out, and they just rebought it recently. And the whole special is about being on the road. And you see me going to the hotel room and having to get in the car of the club owner, and having to move his kid's car seat and all the cat hair in the car, and and all the things, and the radio shows you have to do, and the straight people that you have to deal with, and the radio station, because they're not used to having a gay guy. It's never happened before. There's all sorts of things you have to learn to deal with. Certainly it's fun sometimes, but sometimes you just want to be able to go home at the end of the night,
So from what I'm taking away from that, a lot of it's procedural, because he was on the show last week, he was on the radio show. This is the first time we're meeting. You were talking about in the 1980s when you were first doing comedy there, before the internet. Okay, just some of you folks missed that era, completely missed that era, and don't understand that you had to put out flyers. You had to go on radio shows.
Oh, you had to go radio shows.
You had to
You had to be the pick of the week in their version of an entertainment magazine, or you had to be on the cover of their gay rag that was in the city, or they'd have to do a story about you in their, version of the Los Angeles or New York Times. So we had all that. Yeah.
So I take it, does it go without saying that you're loving this whole internet bit, the way social media has made it available? Just put Jason Stewart out there.
I know, because you still do a lot of interviews, but now you guys do that.
Yes.
You'll put it out there. Are we on Instagram right now?
This will have to get uploaded.
I think I look a little puffy. This is the way I used to look years ago.
I have clips from the era where you did the Geraldo show, and yeah, my hair is kind of like...
I'm older. I had hair. And my hair is growing out a little because I'm doing a movie next week, so it's not because I'm sloppy.
Okay, what can you tell us about the movie next week?
I'm doing a thing with Lena Waithe, who won the Emmy for Best Comedy last year for A Master of None, and Common, the singer-actor who won the Oscar for Selma. And I'm doing a little film for them called The Line, and I play a anti-abortionist leader.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of based on Fred Phelps.
You take on these serious roles. Ever since Birth of a Nation, you take on these really uber serious roles.
I guess that's sort of, yeah, so some people don't even know I do stand-up in that world.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you worked with, speaking of Birth of a Nation, you worked with Armie Hammer, who some of us recently saw on Call Me By Your Name.
Oh, yeah.
Is Armie Hammer charming? Is he handsome? Is he a nice guy? What's the in and outs of Armie Hammer?
We really connected because he's a hard worker like I am. He likes to rehearse, so we sort of finished each other's sentences a lot. And he's got a lovely wife. We did a lot of touring together for the film. Went to Canada, we went to Colorado, we went to Sundance, and so we went Utah. We went all over and promoted the movie. So I got to meet him and his wife, and he had one baby. She was pregnant at the time, and so it's he and I got along really well. And what I learned really well from him is that, you know, I'm a character actor, so I go in and I do a couple scenes, and then I'm out. I mean, he's a leading man. So what I learned from him is really taking your space, and because he was there all the time, one of the leading actors in the film, so taking your space and moving yourself from any sort of drama on the set. If anything was getting tense or something, he would just say, step out until it was done. And I would usually just stay there because I wanted to stay in character and be in the whole, the moment of everything. I didn't want to lose where I was. But I learned that from him, that you can just step away and that's okay. You know, I learned a lot. You know, he's half my age, so.
Yeah.
You know.
And you guys would rehearse together to get ready
all
for
the time.
Yeah,
just even, you know, we were doing one scene at a table, and I only had one line. He had this speech to do, and I could see that he was a little feeling a little uncomfortable about it. So I just sort of started. I said, "Let's do it again," and he'd do it again, and then I'd say my line. We'd do it again, and it was just sort of not a lot of talking about it. We would just do it. And they were real supportive. The whole film, everybody was.
Just kind of the workshop process that actors go through of
rehearsing
and kind of figuring out what's working with it.
Yeah, and how you get from where to where.
Yeah. I like it, man. So can you tell us a little bit about, so in the bio, it names drop a lot of big names here. Alan Arkin, Steve Buscemi, Clooney, Faye Dunaway, Angelina Jolie. Is this all right?
Alan Arkin? Oh no, that says I have the timing of Alan.
You have the timing. Okay.
He's reading my press release.
Didn't work.
So,
he has the timing.
So humiliated.
I correct myself.
It's humiliating.
But so you've been on movie sets and worked with these.
Oh yeah, I worked with George Clooney on a show called Sunset Beat in the '90s. I worked with Faye Dunaway in a movie called Ghosts Never Sleep. I played a talk show host, Barry something, and in George's show I played Marty, the nightclub owner. And then what else is there? Angelina Jolie, I played one of her agents in the movie Gia. And David Wayans,
See, I saw Gia. I liked Gia a lot.
Yeah, it was a small part. And Michael Christopher was the director and the writer who wrote the Shadowbox, the Pulitzer Prize-winning play.
Nice.
And then Damon Wayans always gave me a really big break. I played Dr. Thomas. I recurred on My Wife and Kids, a sitcom on ABC for a while.
Very
2000,
cool.
I think 2001 and 2, somewhere around there.
Now let's talk about social issues for a bit. Again, going back to his bio, which us reporters often do, you use your talents as an openly gay actor and comedian to support the community by performing at countless benefits, from the AIDS events to the homeless. So let's talk about what do you do for your community in terms of support?
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm here, because Melinda Carroll is doing this incredible festival called the Portland Queer Comedy Festival. There we go. And she was nice enough to bring me out here a couple of years ago and headline me at the Fun House, and then we had done a couple tours together. We worked. She opened for me at a couple of gay prides, and then when she said, "I'm going to be producing this comedy festival, I'd like you to be in it," I said, "What can I do to help?" So this is a way of giving back to our community, and someone who's a newer comedian who's really stepping up to the plate and trying to create her own destiny. And then, like recently, I just hosted a big AIDS benefit in Orange County, California, for a medical center for people living with HIV and AIDS. And then I did something in San Francisco with Jennifer Holliday, and for a hospice house.
Yes.
And I was in between two incredible divas, and I did some stand-up there, things like that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, if you were to, this is that Barbara Walters moment, when you put it all in perspective, so 25 years of being out, actor and comedian, started as a comic and actor before that in the 80s. So if you put it cumulatively to, hate to throw big numbers at you, like 40 years of work, where are you at? You satisfied? Are you proud of the work? More to go, more to accomplish?
I definitely have more to accomplish. I have a film coming out called The Immortal next year, where I play a private investigator who deals in spyware. And that was something I never did before. I never played somebody that was very intimidating and somebody who was very quiet and intimidating, and that was really something that was a big leap for me. Birth of a Nation certainly changed a lot of things. I'm trying to think of what other things that I've done that I just felt. I think working on The Closer, my friend Adam Belanoff had gotten me in for that part, and I played a sort of Jewishy New York guy who felt sort of put upon, and I never played somebody like that, and that role got me to doing a little show called War in the Ape that Sean Baker had created and directed, and then he went on to do Tangerine in the Florida Project, and I had a nice little supporting role in Tangerine. So Tangerine was probably one of my greatest experiences.
So I hear you talking about film and television things you'd like to do, more that you'd like to do in that realm.
Oh yeah.
I'd like so to much work on the comedy front, but more about film and television.
Yeah, I'd like to work with Spike Lee. I'd like to work with, Paul Thomas Anderson.
I love P.T. Anderson.
Ava DuVernay.
Magnolia is one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, that's my favorite of his films.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite of all of his films. I'd like to work with some of the great directors like Scorsese and, Thomas McCarthy. I'd like to work. That's what I would like to do, and continue to do stand-up where it's fun. When it's right.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is not a point. This is a serious question, because you were talking about it in the Geraldo interview from 1993, which I watched today. I saw it for the first time. Very handsome, by the way. You were talking.
Then.
Well, both.
No.
Both. Come on. So, but you were
man.
talking about the fear, and this is a legitimate fear that a lot of actors have, that if you come out, will they pigeonhole you, and you will only be able to get gay roles, if anything at all. That hasn't borne out to be true.
Well, I was definitely pigeonholed in the beginning, and there are some people that I'll always be a gay guy to, and people won't see it. And then there's some people, I think it's under 40, over 40. But, I just recently did this film called Hank, where I play a gay guy who... his husband wants to be in an open relationship, and basically it's over. And he's very sweet, he's very kind, and he's very shy and quiet, and I'd never played that kind of part before, so that was sort of interesting. And that was the first time I played that kind of a part and played a gay character. But it really isn't about gay or straight to me anymore. It's about opportunity and working with great people. I think there are some people under 40, Nate Parker could care less that I was gay. I think it was almost a selling point to him, because he wanted people that were activists and people that were leaders and doers to the whole idea of the Nat Turner story about a black abolitionist who was the first person to fight against the white slave owners, and that was me, my character, and he wanted people that were going to step up to the plate and talk about the film and be educated in that area in terms of what it's like to be a minority in the workplace. So sometimes it helps you. I mean, there's no mistake that the last 3 films that I worked on that were really big were Love is Strange, about these 2 older men getting married with Fred Molina and Jonathan Lithgow, and then Tangerine, about a day in the life of these 2 transgender gals, and then Birth of a Nation, which is sort of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So it's no mistake how your career goes and who you get to work with. And even Immortal, the incredibly wonderful Jewish director, who really understood my story about where I come from. And I sent him a letter, and I wanted to play another part, but he offered me this one, and just offered it to me.
Do you feel doors are opening? Do you feel a trajectory at the moment?
Yeah, but I think it's birds of a feather. There's a connection, and there's a lot of people now who are younger who don't care. They just care that you're good, or that you're successful, or that kind of thing.
Well, the more body of work, the more examples, so they can say, I saw him in this, I saw him in this.
When you have a body of work,
right,
people are more apt to...
that's my experience.
...to trust you, and that makes me feel good, because, I've worked very hard to have a body of work, and I feel so grateful that I've had these opportunities, and lucky. You can work hard, and, sometimes things don't happen, so...
Any surprises for us in store tonight when you go on for your 9 p.m. set? Because I'm curious, if the comedic world is kind of like a magician, where you can't tell us your secrets, but in my mind, if I do a Kreskin here, I'm wondering if Jason Stewart already knows what set he's going to give on stage, or if it's kind of like a chef, like you're going to take like the flavor
Oh no, I
of the
plan
room.
what I'm going to do around.
You know what this man knows what he's going to do tonight.
I mean, it's comedy is it's like a poo-poo platter. You know what I mean? You know, some things you like, some things you don't.
Yeah.
I always tell the kids that I mentor, I say, don't forget to breathe and listen to the audience. Those are the most important things.
To see if it's working.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I think I'm a funny person. Whatever I say is funny, but my job is to set it up so the audience understands where this is coming from.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on in person on the show, GAYBC News. Proud to host Jason Stewart, who is here, again, about to perform in the Queer Comedy Festival in Portland, Oregon. Best of luck, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much. Bye.
All right.